What is going on, everybody? This is Duke White. You're watching Real Life with Duke White. I'm excited because normally we don't have the Warrior Riders live, but this time we do. This is something really special that we're going to be doing live from now on. You will be able to catch up and see it again on Goodview Network, but we wanted to go live because we're trying to inspire writers to connect with the Warrior Writers. If you are a writer out there, and you're trying to connect with people, you just feel stuck. We have somebody that will help you get your book out there. And we need more inspiration. We need more men and women out there writing, inspiring people. And without further ado, we're going to bring up Missy Maxwell Worton. Do you like that? I do. Yeah. But Missy,
my English background, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I want to say thank you so much for being with us again, as you are every week for Warrior Writer Wednesday. But we decided to go live this time and to start doing lives because we just want to inspire as many people as we can. So tell us about your guest that you're bringing, your writer, your warrior writer that you're bringing up today, because she is phenomenal. So just tell us a little bit about her.
Yes, Maggie Kavanaugh. She is the founder of Godfident, and she is out there speaking and helping women who have gone through a lot of trauma in their life to know how to come out of that and speak to their message and help others be released. But Maggie is one of our warrior writers. Not only her, but her sister is as well.
Yes. And I was interviewing them and they started fighting in the interview with each other over. So it was phenomenal. I loved it, every bit of it.
They're awesome. But now Maggie is coaching our authors who, after you write a book, you're going to go have to go out there and speak to it.
Right.
She is helping all the warrior writers. I help them write the book. She helps them get their message out with their voice. So phenomenal. We are basically unsilencing everybody to go out.
Yes, because a lot of people get afraid, and if they get the book out, then they don't want to talk about it. They don't, I know that marketing is another headache, but everybody get ready for Maggie Kavanaugh. How you doing, Maggie? It's good to see you again.
Oh, it's good to see you, Duke. And Missy, always a pleasure.
Oh,
yes, you had me cracking up at NRB. Tell you what, you and your sister, like I told Missy, you are a hoot. So we got to get down right into it. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in media, how long you've been, because I know you have your own program. You do so much. Just share some stuff about you that we may not know.
Sure. I'm the founder with my husband of Moving Forward Ministries, which is basically a threefold ministry. It started out with Christian counseling because I'm passionate about people getting free and helping specifically women and young women recognize their identity in Christ. From that, birthed the media, which came with the Godfident movement. It's an annual conference we have every September it's multi-generational, interdenominational, the older women pouring into the younger, but the younger pouring into the youngest. Peer relationships matter. Right. And in addition to that, we have a TV show called Godfident Next Generation, ages 13 to 23. And I rotate out different hosts, co-hosts. Our main host is Greta Heisey. And we just absolutely love them talking about things that young people should be talking about through the lens of scripture. In addition to that, I have a TV show called Keys to Your Best Life, which is now moved to podcast format as well. And then I do coaching. And as you know, I'm with Missy. Her and I started working together, about a year ago, Missy?
About a year ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about a year ago, because she has the same heart I do, is to see people walk in their giftings and callings and to tell their story. And she does it through books and I do it through speaking. And it's a great, beautiful thing. And as I got to know Missy, I was like, Missy, I got a story. And she's like, let's do it. So now I am a warrior writer, but a public speaking coach as well.
Yeah. So first of all, everybody, I told you she was a hoot. I told you. So I do want to tackle this like heads up, like right in. I want to get right into it because, when I think about from a general sense, the way we see each other, humans are not very careful creatures with each other. I think that Missy said, yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. We can be very dismissive. we can make a lot of assumptions, and we can have no idea what other people have actually been through. I cringe at comments like, oh, everybody's got a story. And it's just like, okay, well then, if you're going to go with the everybody's got a story thing, which definitely sounds very dismissive, then you can't be the same person that is shocked when that person absolutely flips out because they felt misunderstood or they felt hurt on the inside. And in such a dismissive generation, which it's clear that it happens, how do we help people feel confident that there are people that care? Because asking people to care can be very scary. We long for it, but it's easier to hit the lottery 5 or 6 times. And that's what it feels like. It may not be true. That's what it feels like. But how do we get people out of their head and saying, I know that people care. I'm gonna be vulnerable and say that I need help, and particularly for women, because women have to not only compete in the man world, but it's also like they have to fight the extra stereotypes and then compete with each other technically. And I know I just said a lot, but you know my language.
Yeah.
So can you just how do we get people out of their head? Somebody said you could have just said that, Duke. But how do you get people out of your head, out of their heads, and vulnerable enough to say, I need help, I need care?
I love that question. And Duke, we are brother and sister from another mother here because we are the same. We got lots of words, okay? So I hear you, brother, okay? I hear you. And I think that transparency breeds transparency, and real recognizes real. And so when people, there's an old saying that says, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's whenever we are willing to not just tell people, oh, it's going to be okay, but give them demonstration of knowing that it is not really about us. And I am one of those persons. I do believe everybody has a story. However, I don't do it in a dismissive way. I do it in a way that, where did the hurt start? And I am here for you. I see you. I listen to you. And I think it comes a lot from just our identity. People think their identity is what they've been through, but their identity is rooted in Christ. And so when we point to Christ, that's how we get people to know, and they can recognize real.
Yeah. And now, because I do know how toxic isolation is in the mind. And before we go there, Missy, because I didn't know about this other dimension of the warrior writers, the speaking part. So this is the first time I'm hearing about it, and I'm like, whoa, that is very true. That writers, once they push past and write the book, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, now you have to learn how to do, talk about it. What was some of the challenges adding that dimension to? Hey, I know you thought it was over writing the book, but now there's this section. Was there any pushback?
No, it actually just flowed right in, because what always happens is that you finish your book, people start buying your book, and then they want to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say, because it's all about the journey in the book. If you've written a book correctly, which we teach people how to do, but when you watch them go through the journey and you see how they react or they respond, it's the way they make choices in their journey in life, which we all know we react most of the time when we're younger, and then we finally figure it out and go, I'm going to respond to this and make different choices and come out on a different side. And the beautiful thing is they have to dig deep when they're writing their book, so when they speak to it, this authentic voice just naturally just flows out, and they're helping people in a powerful way just recognize their story buried in the person who's speaking or in their book. And there's transformation in that. When you hear a person and you feel seen and heard through their story, suddenly there's a transformation in you, because you're not alone and you have people that care.
Now, Maggie, you know, the word trauma, I've heard it more than I've heard it in my entire life in the last 4 or 5 years, the word trauma. And I know everybody carries trauma different, uh, but, you know, as believers, this is a real conflict because it's almost like, am I violating my faith if trauma is affecting me? And so now you have people, so it's like, let's add some guilt to that trauma, because because now it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be a child of God, and I don't have my faith is not protecting me from my emotions. How does somebody actually deal with this dilemma, and how much does trauma still play a role in someone who's walking with Christ, who's in their word, who loves God? And yeah, can you just speak to that? Because I think a lot of people feel guilty that they're still affected by trauma in a certain way.
Nobody goes through life unscathed because we live in a fallen world with broken people. And the reason you hear people talk about it more now, Duke, is because people are being more transparent. They're recognizing that freedom comes whenever we speak the truth with love, and they're not hiding. For many generations, like, I'm old enough, I'll be real with you, I'm 62 years old, okay? My generation was, don't talk about it, hide it, stuff it, and fake it till you make it, okay? And that doesn't work for anybody, okay? Jesus came to seek and save the lost. He came for the sick and the hurting and the broken. And so, but when you say you're sick and you're hurt, well, sister, you just don't have enough faith. That's crap, okay? And this has been an issue in the body of Christ. All right, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be
no, this is
okay,
not true. You're fine. You're fine.
But what happens is that when people recognize that there is opportunity to be healed, because Jesus is the healer, whether you go to counseling, whether you go to a 12-step group, whether you go to inner healing, if it is rooted and grounded in Jesus, he wants us to be healed. He hung on the cross, beaten, bruised out, and bleeding. Now, in this world, we will have trials and we will have tribulation. But Jesus said, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. So with that being said, then why would we hide the fact that we're hurting? Because we do a disservice to other people to get them to fake it too, if we're not real. So trauma is serious. You're looking at a woman who's been through complex trauma. And that's what that is layers and layers and layers and multiple issues. Missy knows part of my story because she's my writing coach. And so, but I'm on the other side of that. And so when you are real and you give people permission to and understanding where the truth comes from, because see, like in my book, Duke, and Missy's such a good coach, right? I'm like, I wrote all this, these assessments and all these helps and all these stuff. And she's like, but the story is going to connect the people. And it's true. It's so true. I mean, I had a little bit of story and a whole lot of helps because that's who I am. I want to help people, right? However, the story matters. Jesus talked in parables. He told stories. People got free.
You know what's funny? What's funny about you saying that is people actually, like all three of us, people who are usually on the front lines helping everyone, we're the main ones that will neglect our own story.
Come on, it's true.
It's just like we'll be in the cave healing our wounds to get back out there on the battlefield. And I do think that writing has the ability to bring forth a lot of healing. And this goes back to you, Missy, that I have to ask you, like, a book can only be so big. How do you know? Because it's someone's life. We're not just talking about fictional stories, right? So this is someone's life. Like, so how do you know what parts to take out and put in? And, because it's like, oh, am I being disgenuine? Because now now it's about how long the book is, or how do you help people through that process?
Oh, that's anything that's not moving the story forward, like a grocery list. You went to the grocery store, unless you saw somebody that triggered you into something, we don't need that. But I've noticed a lot of new authors, they will just write things like, okay, this happened on this day, this, and nobody wants a grocery list. What we're looking for is we're wanting the triggers. We're we're wanting the main events that happen, and you trying to overcome it with your emotions, with actions, with inactions, with thoughts. And what really happens is you start transforming from a huge trigger to recognizing it, facing it head on, learning the truth about it, learning where Jesus was in that moment is the biggest healing part, getting some healing and coming out to where when it happens again, you recognize you weren't the person you were a year ago, and there's growth. And so we don't need everything. We need story. And I have 6 very easy steps in what we're looking for story.
Yeah.
And it always comes out like it's a great way it's a way that you write movies. So you write books in the same way.
Yeah. So like you said, we don't need the grocery list, but it's the connection. And I know that had to been a difficult transition, Maggie, with you, especially since I write how I talk. And, you know, it's like, hey, dude, you can put a period in there somewhere, you know, like, so I was like, you know, or hey, you could have left this part out, or you said this 5 different times in 3 different ways. You know what I mean? I do know that when you're such a passionate person, Maggie, how do you find a way to convey that passion into your writing? Because it's so, I mean, is it easier to just say, hey, I write for myself? I know that that's a technique, but how do you pack that passion into your writing?
Sure. Well, you know, it's funny, dude, because I wrote a couple books before, and when I got into this writers group and I understood some of the principles that Missy has taught me, I took all my books off of Amazon. Okay. I'm being real here. Okay. I was like, I am a crappy writer. And it's like I tell Missy, writers have to speak, right? They have to market their book. They have to talk about it. But speakers have to write.
Right.
And so I am a speaker who writes. That's why I need Missy so bad. I mean, I'm just serious.
Yeah.
I am stepping into it, but it's like I told her recently, I was like, Missy, this is so crazy because, you know, obviously I've been a believer for a while and I didn't always know the Lord and I had a very destructive background. But as I'm writing my book, I'm encouraged because I can see the hand of God throughout my life. So when you are celebrating what God has done, it's easier to write.
Yeah.
When you're past the pain. And I'll tell you, one of the first things the Lord told me when I got saved in 1998 was to tell my story. And I have in bits and parts at different women's conferences, different situations where the Lord has led. But I started writing and then I had a writer's block because of triggers. That's what's so beautiful about the warrior writers is because what Missy has done is she is every obstacle they could have. You know, okay, you're triggered. So here's your inner healing. Oh, you don't know how to market on social media. Here's your media help. Okay. She's brought Tammy in for media help, Donna in for encouragement. You know, all these women are contributing to people walking in and saying, you know what? I can tell my story. Yeah. My story matters. It'll bring healing to me and healing to others. And it'll bring glory to Jesus and make him famous.
Now, my next question is this, because one of the things that I think about, especially when we go back to, you know, being vulnerable enough to tell your story. And I wonder sometimes how people feel about being vulnerable, especially when it includes other people, family members and things like that. And like concerned about the backlash or what happens. Because once the stuff's out there, it's out there. You know what I mean? How do you help people be okay with sharing their story, especially when it involves other people that still may even be here?
That's for you, girl.
And that's my question, right?
Yes, go for it.
Well, this is probably the biggest thing that stops people from finishing a book. I just recently discovered that 97% of people who start a book never finish, and it's because they don't have community. It's because they give up in the middle. It's because of the fears that oh, what will people say about my story? They're embarrassed in parts of their story, and other parts they don't want to hurt someone who has actually hurt them, but they're looking at the the overall family that might be hurt in this. And there's several things we can do. We can work around that part of the story. We can change. If it was an uncle that did something that he shouldn't have done, then we can change it to a neighbor. We can change it, names. We can do all sorts of things. It's not about the actual person. It's about what happened and how you responded to it and how you overcame how it made you feel.
Yeah, and Maggie, this one for sure is for you because the term being strong hurts a lot of people. I got to be strong. I got to be strong. I got to be strong. First of all, I'd like for you to interpret that phrase. You have to be strong. Can we put some boundaries around that and like bring some light to that? What does that actually mean?
Yeah. Self-sufficiency will kill you. I'm just going to say that. Self-sufficiency will kill you. Relying on your own self is dangerous. And we do that because culture demands that. I am a strong woman. I can handle this and so forth. It literally killed me, Duke, because I was that person. And there's a difference between being strong and being resilient. Okay. So the Bible tells us very clearly that when we are weak, he is strong, right? And that's what we're doing is we're allowing him to hold us up. When we are out there trying to hold ourselves up by the world's definition of strong, we are just jacking things up worse and making it harder for us to get free. But when we are resilient, okay, hence all the books that have come out through the warrior writers, when we are resilient, we are more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus, right? We are not taking the credit for what's happening. We are giving glory where it's due, right? And so being strong, it's okay to be good at something and have a skill set or work on that in the physical and the natural and so forth. But when we are taking credit for God's work, we are in error.
Right. Yeah. So I need so that would, for everyone to understand that's not just a woman, that's a guy thing too.
Yeah.
So like this whole being strong thing, none of that's real. It's it's like I've literally seen people, go into a downward spiral, and they work harder at putting on the smile and everything's great, everything's fine, and then when everything falls apart, they're like, nobody was there for me. It's like because nobody knew you were going through, and it's like you didn't ask for help. Which I know that has to be that's difficult. I ask for help. I ask for person. That's not an area I struggle in, mainly because I'm a mama's boy, and so mama, mama, So I will turn into a 5-year-old in a heartbeat. So it's not a struggle for me. And I've also met me. So I'm like, you need some help. You need help. You need Jesus and an entire community. So I'm not confused about the help I need. But I do know that there is a fear of people using things against you once you're vulnerable. And when things are in print, it's out there. And so how do you heal after someone has cast judgment about your work and you're being vulnerable and intimate? How do you teach people to, take it to the chin and kind of keep on moving? Because it's so easy to say, I'll never write again because it's out there. But how do you encourage people once criticism has launched? That's for you guys.
Okay. Do you have an answer first, Miss?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because, so often we get our authors on different podcasts, different TV shows, and some of them have had some massive just pushback from the family because it's like that was our family secret and you just put it out there. And what we have to look at is it's not so much about sharing a family secret because the people who are listening aren't going, the only person that's saying we're getting judged right here is the family. But people are listening to it and they're saying, that's our family. We have that. And so how are you going to show others how to heal and come out of that very thing that your families walked through? You now have become vulnerable to the place where people can relate to you. Look at all your best friends. You know something about them, don't you? that they don't want you, they don't share with everybody, but something and you still love them, and you're always going to have pushback, mostly from family, if you're going to share something. So that's why I do say, why are you writing your book? Let's answer that question. Are you writing it to get famous, to get rich? Go ahead and lay it down now.
Right.
So, but if you're writing it so others may heal by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony, your testimony cries out to people's hearts and they become renewed. They see their story, they see help, they get healed, and they get transformed because you decided to share your testimony. That's all a story is your testimony. And most of them aren't pretty. There's a part that's just not pretty.
Right. I do have to ask, because I am concerned genuinely for not just creatives, but people in general, not even just writers, but people in general. There's a part where I do understand corporate America and how they want young people spending their money. Everything's aiming at young people, and and then there's this part where you do things like get married and have children, and you kind of get disconnected from the false identities. You start maturing, right? You start maturing, and then there's a part. Then when your kids go, or when something else, another transition in life happens, and you get older. And I'm always concerned about my older brothers and sisters, and even myself, limiting our creative ability and disqualifying ourselves because of our age, and we disqualify ourselves, and so now you'll have someone saying, no one wants to read my book, or I'm too old to make this movie, or no one wants to read my book because this generation doesn't care. Could you speak to that mindset, to that creative mind that thinks they're disqualified because of their age? That's for either one of you guys too.
Let me get this one.
Go for it.
Let me get this one.
Okay. The reality is that you look at the Old Testament. When did God use people? They were old. Okay, they were old. Okay, and I think that the younger generation is starting to understand wisdom is different than knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you can have a lot of knowledge, but wisdom, that is really important. And so we have to allow people to basically impart wisdom to others. It is a biblical command for older women to speak into the lives of younger women. That's how the Godfident movement was birthed. God was speaking to me in my prayer closet one day, and I've worked a lot in recovery because I'm very passionate about seeing people get free from their bondages. And it's not so much when we're talking about trauma, it's not why do you drink? It's like what happened to you, right? And so the Godfident movement was birthed whenever I was talking to the Lord about these hurting people and their kids and the impact that all this brokenness was having on their lives. And he told me, and it wrecked me, and I've never been the same since. And he said, teach them to live a life they don't have to recover from. And it wrecked me. I was like, whoa. I'm like, how do I do that? I'm old. I'm too old, God. And I could almost hear the echo of laughter from the Holy Spirit going, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Right? And so what we do with this movement is for the blending of the generations. So there isn't that gap. How many times have we heard over the years, especially in the 60s, the generational gap, right? The generational gap is a myth.
Right.
They want and need us. And for us to discredit what God has done in our life and imparted to us would be wrong, to not walk in our calling. So, friend Maya, I love her. So we have got to be able to know that it's never too late. Mm-hmm. It's never too late. I was coaching a woman in her 80s the other day. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it comes to a certain point in life where we're always wanting to give back, right? You're never too old and you're never too young. The Bible speaks clearly, and I'm just going to do it. This is a paraphrase, obviously. Don't let people be hating on you because you're young.
Yeah.
Right? Scripture tells us this, right? Yeah. So
That's an awesome
they have
version.
something.
We need that version of the Bible. That was amazing.
There we go.
We have something they need, but they have something we need. So, like at our Godfident conferences, what we do is we have a 13-year-old get up there and speak, and then we'll have somebody in their 50s, and we'll get a 30-year-old to speak, and then we'll have somebody in their 70s, whatever. And we blend it together. And so it's just like with the TV show. I'll walk away listening to these young kids on fire, feeling like I've been to revival. Okay. I'll spend some time pouring into them. They feel the same way. We have to get out of the mindset that anything qualifies us other than the blood of Christ and the word of our testimony.
That's the truth right there. That's solid.
Yes.
That is solid. I am glad that you brought up the fact that the younger generation needs us and wants us to lead them. And I want to bring up this word based off of that, because insecurity is something that secretly attacks all age groups, all races, all genders. Can we just talk to that a little bit about like how insecurity can affect your creative ability if you're not careful? Mm-hmm. How damaging really is insecurity? And not that everyone doesn't have them, but what happens really when we give into insecurity?
Missy, you want to speak to that?
Go ahead, Maggie. Yeah, no, you speak right into this. This is perfect for you.
Well,
that wisdom.
I spent a great deal of my life being insecure. And so when we are insecure, it's about us. Okay. Ooh. And the more mature that we come, and like Happy Harmony said here, insecurity attacks all ages, all races. It doesn't matter, men, women, and so forth. And this is the biggest thing that we see. And this is why my heart is for people to be confident, okay? But not in their own abilities. And that's why it's called Godfident. Confident that God's going to get you through it. And It's not about what you do. It's not about what you say. It is about Him and Him crucified. So whenever you're honoring God with your gifts and your talents that came from Him to begin with, right? Yeah. I mean, we always use the scripture, well, a man robbed God when we're talking about tithing, but a man will rob God of His glory when they take credit for something. So it's always about them. It's, now I'm not saying that God doesn't care about our feelings. He does. It's part of our soulish realm, our mind, will, and emotions. But when we are so fixated on what people think and so forth, I call it the I disease. I think, I feel. It's all about me, right? And so when people start to become aware of just how gracious and how good God is and how He's got us through so many things, then we can shift that mindset from insecurity and be led by the Holy Spirit to be security in who we are in Christ. Godfident, not self-sufficient.
Right. So what happened? Well, Missy, did you want to respond to that at all about insecurity?
I think she nailed it.
She really did. She really did.
Missy can't speak to that. I can promise you. Her and I we're just like sisters.
We're sisters. We're sisters.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing is that emotions make things so real, because a lot of times when I deal with my insecurity, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not lying that this flaw is here, that the mistake wasn't there. So it's like it's there. When I examine my insecurity, and I got people saying, dude, you're awesome, you're this and that. I'm like, but I'm the same guy that thought 1 + 1 was 3. You know what I mean? Like, how does this happen? How does this line up? There's no way that I'm this because and do you think it's just easier to beat up on yourself than it is to the reason why I'm saying this is because you call it confident, but I'm like, I've seen people cringe at positive reinforcement, positive criticism, saying, hey, taking accolades and saying you did a great job. Like, it's so difficult for people to hear good things about themselves, but the truth is, even in the business that you guys are in with writing, you can sell 20 million books. You can lead 1 million people to the Lord, and it's this one moron that says something bad about you, and then you fall apart. What is that?
Ooh, can I speak to this one?
Yes, come on.
Sorry. Woo! This is good stuff, Duke. Okay. So the reality is it starts at a young age. This shame-based nature, the attack starts at it always, I can tell you, you can give me 100 women and 85 to 90% and will admit in the right environment that they heard, you're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're not this. The accuser of the brethren starts at, and this is not a girl thing, okay? The guys at a young age, you need to be a man. Don't you show those emotions. Don't you cry? Real men don't cry. I mean, we get all this crap fed into us. And then we wonder why we're having meltdowns when people say, listen, maybe you should try it this way. And you're trying to, people have to tiptoe around because we're so fractured. And that's where we take it to the cross. And we look at, I think it was Michael Jackson said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror, and so we need to self-evaluate. And a lot of people will be like, well, you need to be complete in Christ. You cannot fully receive God's love until you know him. And you cannot know him until you get out of the mindset that you've been programmed with from a young child of the lies of the enemy. And how do we get rid of the lies? We use the truth to replace it.
Yeah, and I think that in the society that we live in, finding the time to heal. How do we help people find the time to take their mental health seriously? We do hear I don't have time to go to the gym. Some people say, I don't have time to go to church. I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to write. I don't have time to look in the mirror and say that I'm beautiful 5 times, or how do we help people not feel like they just have to pile stuff on, but actually confront the inner battles that take place?
Well, let me just say, you have time for what is important for you to do.
So,
You absolutely, you will find those same people that say, I don't have any time. If they look at their scrolling record, they've been scrolling for 3 hours a day. If you just took that out, you probably could, you do what is important to you. But the other thing that when you were bringing up the whole thing about coming in with who you are as far as confident, who does God say you are? And one of the things that I speak on is authority bias. Well, authority bias is someone who is, whether a parent, a teacher, a coach, someone that you respected said you could not do something or put you down in a category. And what we think because they knew what was right, that it is truth of what they said.
Well, that's your story. That's what happened to you. Because
right.
Could you just go back to that and just remind everybody of the story? Because you were told never to write, that you were not right.
I was told but when I reanalyzed it and I refaced it, the teacher was telling me, you have atrocious grammar. You should never think of being an author. And so I shoved being an author down, which was a huge dream of mine. And I did write for film, television, but I set that aside. So I spent 40 years thinking I could never write until someone said, who told you couldn't? And that's where I realized it was their opinion. It was not fact. And so if you look at what is holding you back in the areas of your life that you feel bound and you can't move forward, I'm speaking to somebody here, but if you look at your life, who told you couldn't? If you actually look at that and put it as what it was, it is their opinion. It's not truth. Who does God say you are? If God said you couldn't do it, that's a different story. But the God I know is always encouraging. He's always saying, you can do all things through me. You want to do something big? Let me get behind me. I'll charge you forward. That is who we serve. So stop listening to the voices of man who said you could not do it. It is their opinion. That is not heaven's opinion about you.
Mm-hmm. Missy came out swinging. But
Amen.
I understand it.
Watch this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
don't have to throw an offering. Because that is a real, and we're pretty much talking open about something that every human is walking around doing. They just keep it to themselves, and we really got to stop doing that, because it's the secret pain and the secret tears that's eating away at humanity. It frustrates me, because I want people to experience the fullness of God's joy in their life and God's peace in their life. And the peace can't come if it's, secret suffering occupying that space. And we do need each other. I feel like we over exaggerated the concept of independence. And I know we talked about that earlier. I believe that we're supposed to be more interdependent, where we're dependent on God and dependent on each other. The bottom line is we just need each other. And I preached the other day, and the analogy that I use about how ridiculous it is that we don't need each other. It's like starting a business saying, hey, I did it all by myself. I don't need my employees or my customers. You know what I mean? It's like that business is going to fail the same day at the grand opening, because you have an attitude that you don't need it. Like, the bottom line is we just need each other. But I would like to ask this, because I think it's very significant. When a person is coming face to face with that reality that Missy just talked about, where it's like, wait a minute, I've spent this much time arguing with a phantom from the past, and like, how do we not turn that into guilt and turn that into motivation to say, I am going to, rise up. I'm going to rise above this, versus, well, it's too late now. They won. How do we help people really, accept and move on?
Maggie,
I'll say something really quick, though, is that history shows us that some of the most amazing works of art, whether it is in writing, in painting, in just inventions that have come down through time, have happened after the age of 60.
Let's go.
So, you think you're old.
Yeah.
And some of them were dead. Okay. Some of the things happened after they were dead. So everything we do has intention and will go on. And I'll tell you, I personally, that speaks to me, because I didn't get saved until I was in my 30s. Okay. I thought I was a Christian. I was a C&E, and I was and I wasn't even a good C&E. Okay. Christmas and Easter. Right. And I thought I was a Christian. There was a Bible on my coffee table. I didn't read it. It had dust all over it. I didn't understand it. But if you would have told me I wasn't a Christian, I would have been offended. Okay. And so, and we know that we're not supposed to be easily offended. I was not a Christian. However, when I became a Christian and in my 30s, I was like, man, I've wasted all these years. And the enemy has tried to use that on a regular basis. I have to rebuke him. I have to take authority and go, no, it's never too late. Because guess what happened? God was just working on my testimony. When my book comes out, half of my life was not wasted. God is resourceful. He will not waste an ounce of your pain. He will not take any circumstances. He will take it and turn around the bad for good. And
hold on. So you're saying part of the problem is seeing it as wasted time.
Yes, that's the huge problem.
That's good.
Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. I think I'm a gardener, okay? And I ferment stuff, right? And do you know things get more powerful when you ferment them. They're more nutritional. We're just sometimes in the ferment pot and we don't realize it. But it's going to make it so much sweeter later. Same thing with the garden. Last week I taught on the garden. I was talking to some women about how when we drop that seed, we expect something to next day. We're out there. What? Why aren't you growing? Why aren't you growing? Things take time and it goes deep and it dies.
Yeah. It's so funny, because now that I'm on this side of time, now that I'm on this side of time, and I remember when I was younger, and I'm looking at these wonderful couples, like, oh, they have such an amazing relationship. I wish my relationship was like this. They have the house and then I get older And I'm like, oh, wow, if they've been married this long, that means they had these ups and downs. That means that they had, that house was almost lost a couple times. That means that, there's these mortgages that they have to pay. And it's so interesting how comparison, also, if we live a life where we're constantly comparing, especially what we don't know about other people and we don't know their story, the disadvantage that puts us in, because we're always comparing. How do we help people stop comparing their life to others? How do we do that? That's for you, Missy.
Oh, that's for me.
Yeah.
Well,
you walk around with this joy. I ask because you walk around, but we both do. But I was just asking because I know that's I can imagine someone writing and be like, "Oh, her book sold more," or the subject of this book, or that. But how do you help people not compare?
Well, comparison. I look at comparison as a poison, because there is only one of you. You're not one in a million. You are one of a kind. And God didn't say, "I'm going to make two dukes out there," or three dukes.
The world doesn't need that. The world doesn't need that.
But we're so different. We may have a doppelganger out there somewhere. I know I have about 20 of them everywhere I go. Someone just like you, looks just like you. But we're not the same. The way we think, the way we speak, the way we love other people, we're different. We put out a different frequency. And to compare is saying that you don't like what you got. And you are fabulous. You are the only one on the planet. Why would you compare yourself to somebody else that has a totally different path than you? They are not called to the same path as you are called. And I can't even imagine myself taking your path, Duke. I mean, I'd be like, whoa, I'm tired.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
I need to go watch something or just lay down.
Yeah.
But we just need to make sure that we are following the path that we were created to follow, because we know exactly what makes our heart sing. We know exactly when we are living our highest calling for our life. We know when we are in joy. And that's the thing. Joy tells on us. And that's why I'm excited. I love working with these women and now a few men that I'm working with and helping them get their stories out, because something transforms inside of their heart. Once it's changing inside their heart, then it goes to their mindsets, and something happens in the way they speak and the way they write. And how can I not be happy that God called me to do this? But don't think that I was happy about it when he called me to it at first. I was like, what? Wait a minute. No, I've been told I can't write, and I definitely can't teach people to write, but yet I'm saying I can't. So, there's the enemy trying to shut me down early.
Right. And I think that's what it really does. But what about you, Maggie? What is comparison? How damaging is it to you?
It's incredibly damaging. It's a thief of joy. So here's what we do. We know our shortcomings. We know our mistakes. We know all of our stuff. We're our worst self-critic. And whenever we let go of that, the enemy's still right there trying to remind us, right? And so what happens is we are comparing our lowest point of life to someone's highest.
Whoa.
We don't know what's going on. We don't know the trauma. We don't know the drama. We don't know. We're seeing the best, right? And so when you're comparing your lowest to someone's highest, you're always going to end up messed up.
Yeah,
It is so detrimental, and women are specifically really bad at it. I'm just telling you now, men too. It's like, oh man, we should grow a beard like that, or whatever. I mean, right down to the little details. We have to let go of this mindset that is kind of like, did God really say that you're good enough? It always goes back to the garden. The lie.
Yeah.
Sure. And so I think the comparison and social media has not helped, but I think that the freer we get, and I love the question you asked about the time. Can I just add a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Because Missy is 100% right. We make time for what's important to us. Okay. And everybody gets 24 hours, and we talk about time management. We can't manage time. We can't change it. Okay. What we do is we manage our life, and part of managing our life is spirit, soul, and body. Okay. And if we are not taking care of our soulish realm, we are going to mess up our physical bodies, and it's going to impact our spiritual life. So when we look at ourselves the way that God created us, and we start being okay with what he did, what he said was it was good. And who are we to come in and say he did something else better over here than right here?
That sounds like a bad idea, actually.
Right.
Seriously, like you're saying,
That's
God,
embarrassing.
you did a better job on them than you did on me.
Right.
Now you're criticizing God.
Exactly. Okay.
That.
That's like
Not a good idea.
criticizing. So talking negatively about yourself is criticizing God.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was at the military base and I was getting some groceries. And to be on base, you have to have your military card. And I left my card. And I've got these groceries and I'm holding up the line. I'm like, can I go back to get my card? And I go back to get my ID and then I show my ID. And then they're like, well, it's this amount of money. And I'm like, okay. And I go look for my credit card and I have no idea where it is. I have no idea. And I'm looking at the people, and in my mind, they're saying this guy is a complete idiot. And why don't he just get out of the line? I can't believe he's so irresponsible. I'm hearing so many negative voices. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have to step out of the line. Can I go? My heart is racing. I'm having 100% anxiety. I go back to the car, can't find it anywhere. And then I go back again and I had to look like an insane person. I'm just mumbling all of this horrible stuff about myself, like you idiot, you da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just, and the lady goes, well, you can get a replacement card by going next door to the office and just getting a replacement card. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I get back to the line and everyone's laughing because they go, I hate it when that happens to me. I hate it when I do that. And you know what I mean? And they're going, and I'm like, wait, this happens to you too? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm terrible at this and I'm horrible at that. And then this one lady pulls me aside and she goes, hey, you looked a little crazy, saying the stuff that you were saying about yourself. Like, you do know, we heard you. We could see, like, there was a group of them talking, like, is he going to be okay? Because I was dogging myself out so bad. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And, what I realized what it is that I care about people so much that I don't give myself a pass when I make a mistake or when I cause someone an inconvenience. And I'm bringing this up because how important is, because this is what I had to learn out of that. It's like, hey, dude, guess what? You give grace and compassion to a whole lot of people, but you're horrible at doing it for yourself, giving grace and compassion. How do we get people to have grace and compassion for themselves? And is that okay? That's for you, Maggie.
100%. But I think the biggest thing is it something that is so important is accountability. You need that person that is looking at you going, well, how's your self-talk?
Ooh.
What are you thinking about? How you treating your husband? How you treating your wife? And when you were so in love with Jesus and you want to walk a freedom lifestyle, okay? Not a perfect, but a freedom lifestyle. You have to extend grace to yourself as if someone else would. And accountability will hold you to that. They'll be like, man, you're being hard on yourself. An example of that is you're right, Duke. When we are in ministry, we pour out until we're empty and we're exhausted. And I have an 85-year-old brother, and he was a minister for many years, and he's super precious. And one time he was asking me about Sabbath, and I realized I really wasn't honoring Sabbath. Okay. And I know a lot of people do Sabbath on Saturday, a lot of people do it on Sunday and so forth, but I was not stopping. Okay. I was not resting in him. I was out there on, striving. Right. And you never seen Jesus strive. You never say, hey, we got to get to Jerusalem. Come on, guys. We got to go. We got to go. People are waiting on. They need us. They need us. He never did that, right? He's just like, he's under a tree praying, preparing for the next day. And so I said, I'll rest when I get to heaven. And he said, Jesus took rest. You think you're better than Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Ouch. That messed me up. I rest now. I'm like, Lord, you said rest. I'm resting. And so when we are operating from a place of rest, not just physical rest, a place of rest, we are going to be much more kinder to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you're saying that we can be the same kind of crabby that we are in the morning with others, with ourselves, when we're not rested. Not only are we going to be kind of crabby towards others, but we're actually going to be crabby towards ourselves.
Yeah, it's that Holt thing. Dr. Charles Stanley, y'all remember him?
Yeah, I
love him. Gosh, I loved him. When I first got saved, I watched him all the time because I'm a little ADHD. I know you didn't notice that about me, right?
I had no clue.
So, but he would always say, now listen, and I was okay, I won't get this. And so he had talked one time about, and I do this with clients all the time, Holt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You ever heard of it?
Mm.
And so it talked about hungry, physical hunger or spiritual hunger. If you're not hanging out with the Lord, if you're not ingesting the word, if you're not, you know what I'm saying? You get hungry. Okay. And then angry is whenever we all know what anger is, but angry can be angry with ourselves, disappointed with ourselves. Man, what is wrong with me? I left my wallet in the car. Right. Lonely. And that's the loneliness is not just physical relation. We know that we do better together. We know that 2 is better than 1. We know that 1 can send 1,000 to flight, 2 can send 10,000 to flight. However, if we get lonely for the presence of God because we're not practicing the presence of God, we'll be lonely. And when we're tired, physically, emotionally, spiritually, worn out, right? These are areas where we will be attacked. And so I heard this. I heard him talking about this, and I was like, makes so much sense. I love it. Holt, man, I've used it for years. I was talking to some recovery friends a couple years ago, and they're like, you know where that started, right? And I said, no. And they're like, AA.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
God uses everything.
Yeah.
But this is where we're at. We're in a world where we're going 100 miles an hour, and
Right.
and everything is instantaneous, drive-through, breakthrough stuff, trying all the time, 30-second reels. Everything is so crazy. And we really need to just stop.
It's way overstimulating. A lot of overstimulating.
Our brains were not designed for that.
Yeah, Missy, I want to ask you this because we are out of time now, but I have to ask. We got 4 minutes left, and I have to ask this because she brought up so many good points. But when I think about the mind of calm that you have to be in to collect your story the right way, to write and to put things out there the right way. But there's one place that I think people don't realize what they do that blocks them from the free living that she was just talking about. And that's when you're trying to outthink disappointment. How much does that affect a writer when you're trying to control like the outcome and it's stopping you from being productive and effective because you're trying to control the outcome first?
Well, what I always teach my writers to do is to basically do a brain dump right away. And
Just
don't think about what you're writing.
I can do that very well.
Yeah.
I'm good at that. I'm not thinking.
Yeah, and it needs to be a hot mess. Let me just say, and no editing. No editing is allowed. Just write, because in there you're going to get into a flow of writing, and you'll know when you read back through it after you're finished. You'll read back through it and go, this is junk. I just needed to get that out of my system. Here's the gold. And but we're always going to be frustrated. But that's when we share those places, that's vulnerability and authenticity. And that is what the world needs right now. They don't need fakes. They do not need the perfection. Perfection is actually in the imperfection that we have, that we are.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we are out of time. This hour was phenomenal, and we got to do this again. But we are going to be going live from now on, and you will be able to catch the episodes not just on social media but also on Goodview Network. I do want to make this clear though. Ever since cinema truly became part of American culture and the human experience, even, there has been a performance that has affected reality itself. And now we end up finding ourselves performing. And I want to encourage everybody to, instead of trying to perform, just enjoy your walk with God, your life with God, seek God, pursue God, and give yourself, a break. I think that people are 100 times more wonderful than they think, and also in a lot of cases not as awesome as they think. So it's this balance, you know what I mean? And it's like find that perfect place. And to me, that perfect place, and I want everybody to pray about this, that perfect place is when you're totally dependent on God. When I'm encouraging everyone not to grow up, mature, but don't grow up. You know what I mean? Stay a son of God, stay a daughter of God. You don't have to be a know-it-all. Just be a love-em-all. Don't be a know-it-all. Be a love-em-all. Like love God, because guys, there's the level that we need each other is so real. So with that being said, we do have to go. I love you guys very much. Thank you guys for being on the program. God bless you guys. See you guys next week. Take it easy.